Michael T. O'Brien, known gangster, was on the witness stand. The prosecutor moved in for the big one, the question that would blow the lid off organized crime in Hartford. "Isn't it true," said the prosecutor, "that your license plate is MOB?" There was a brief moment while this stunning bit of evidence, the key acronym, sunk in. "Yeah," O'Brien said. "It stands for Mary O'Brien. My mother, O'Brien, and a colleague, Tony Volpe, ran a small-time illegal gambling operation in Hartford, which occasioned their arrest in 1977. Prosecutors tried to paint them as dangerous organized crime figures. They were jailed for racketeering and gambling. Yet they weren't major mobsters. Their gambling business was the most disorganized crime one could imagine," said O'Brien's lawyer, Joseph Fasano. Fasano said the business was so ineptly run that O'Brien was owed $250,000, but had no money at the time of his arrest. Volpe had a gin mill that burned down in a fire police said was prearranged. If these guys were Hartford big hoods, the conclusion was apparent. Hartford wasn't much a mob town. The point was brought home again last week, when mobster William Grasso, of New Haven became flotsam in the Connecticut River. There hadn't been a mob murder in Greater Hartford in years. Grasso's murder seems to have been related to a mob struggle in Boston and Providence. Those cities have long traditions of organized crime. Bridgeport, Springfield and Worcester also have had their share of what cops call OC activity. Hartford hasn't. We thankfully, have been spared a bunch of people named Jimmy the Weasel and Icepick Willie, who break knees, blow each other away and put their hands over their faces as they enter the courthouse. Okay, there was an old mobster named Bobby Doyle, born Girolamo Santuccio, who died a few years ago, a pug from Front Street who made a name for himself in the New York rackets and came back here to retire. He was the spiritual advisor to O'Brien and Volpe. And there was some smoke in the past 2 decades about people with mob ties getting into garbage hauling in central Connecticut. But by and large, Hartford has been pretty clean. There would appear to be 2 reasons for this. The first is the Alcorn family. From 1907 to 1948, Hugh Meade Alcorn Sr. and H. Meade Alcorn Jr. occupied the position of Hartford County State's Attorney. By all accounts they never gave crooks an inch. I remember we put away a guy in the rackets named Springfield Sammy. "We send a message to these guys to stay out of Hartford," said John Murtha, a young prosecutor in the office in the 1940s who went on to prominence in private practice. "Once we had 5 murder trials in 5 weeks and got 5 guilty verdicts. 4 were executed, 1 got life. All over the country, those in organized crime knew Hartford was a bad place to practice it," said H. Meade Alcorn Jr., the Suffield gentleman who was state's attorney from 1942 till 1948 and also became a leading private lawyer. If you had a bookie joint or a brewery, Alcorn and Ed Hickey, a county detective who later headed the state police, would give you 1 day to shut it down. Then they'd show up with axes and guns, said a friend, recalling personal experiences. Although this all took place before defendants' rights became popular, the tradition stuck. Alcorn threw them out and they never came back, said State's Attorney John M. Bailey. Bailey said the white-collar temperament of the city works against a large organized crime presence. The mob stays mainly with gambling, loan sharking and other low-tech activities. We have gambling, but never the huge volume they have in Boston or Providence, Bailey said. This is not to say Hartford doesn't have crime, it has a huge problem with drug crime. But the drug business is fractious, Bailey said, split among West Indian factions, the gangs and a bunch of freelancers. That's more than enough of a problem. If the mobsters like the ambience of the Boston and Providence, that's just fine. A special thanks to the Hartford Courant, for an article written on June 22, 1989. As always, thank you for watching my video. Please like, subscribe, and share my videos. Hit the notification bell to be notified when my next video comes out.